welcome to day 5 of Litma! Today we are just wrapping up all the books that I read in November. So if you don't like wrap-up videos, I guess you can skip this one, but if you do, here we go. As usual, let's get into the stats. In total in November, I did read 11 books and I completed the TBR by the skin of my teeth. I'm really thankful for this new job that I have because even though I'm training, they end up not having a lot of things for me to do, and they are totally cool with me just reading a book. And so the last 2 books on my TBR that were physical reads were mostly read at work. I'm very happy. Like, I do work, but then there's too many people and not enough tasks to do. So I end up, me and one other person end up just sitting there, and I'm like, at least I brought books. He didn't do anything. He's just wasting phone battery. So that's fun. Also, I got a new job. Yay! But yes, I did read 11 books, and I did read a little outside of the TBR, obviously, since I only pick 8 books. I have 3 books outside of the TBR, and the very first one is that. However, let's continue. Genre-wise, I read 5 fantasy, 1 contemporary, sort of. It's like contemporary fantasy. It felt more contemporary than fantasy, so I'm counting it as contemporary. 4 sci-fis, and 1 historical fiction / romance, and you'll see what that is. I mean, if you watch the TBR video, you already know what book it is. But if you forgot, you'll find out soon. Anyway, I read a total of 4,600 pages and 92.5 hours of audiobook. It was a lot. We had a very big book, if you recall. The very first book that I read was one that dropped in my Libby app, and so I had to read it. And it completed a trilogy for me. And yes, I'm really tired right now, so I don't know how engaging this video is gonna be. Anyway, the book was Bronze Beast by Roshni Chokshi. This is the conclusion to the Gilded Wolves trilogy, and I loved it a lot. A lot happens in this one. I'm not sure how I feel still about the ending, because it just didn't end the way I wanted it to. It's still a satisfying ending, but I'm kind of mad about a few aspects of it. Without spoiling anything for you guys about this series, this was definitely very high stakes. The group is very much in their most dividedness and untrustworthiness of each other, but they have to pull through and work together to reach their goal, to save someone's life, to stop evil. It's all very generic, and I'm like, how can I describe this book without giving anything away? All I know is that Enrique's still my favorite, and I wish that it was more solid in the ending in telling us how everybody ended up, because a lot is left to just your imagination, which is nice, but I also really like seeing canonical things that should be canonical, and you don't quite get that. You're allowed to believe it, but I don't know. Certain things just weren't as satisfying to me. It was still really great. I think the thing I loved about this most was the whole adventure aspect of it, and was the kind of puzzle pieces solving together, and the found family portion of it, more than like the relationship side of things, which is where I normally tend to lean towards books where I'm really invested in relationships. In this one, I was actually more invested in plot and how they were going to save everyone and how they're going to stop things and how they were going to survive. So if you're more into like plot heavier books, these ones might be for you. They're still really great character-wise. I just care about some characters a lot less, and one of those characters is a big focus of this entire trilogy, and I just don't care about them, like, at all. I've never cared about them, and nothing really made me care about them. So that's where the Gilded Wolves trilogy kind of falls a little bit flatter for me, but I still really like this book. I still love this trilogy, and it's so pretty. I mean, the aesthetic here. That's the Bronze Beast. So continuing a little bit with somewhat disappointing, but like, it wasn't bad, it's just not what I wanted out of that, and that is The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your House by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner. This is a Welcome to Night Vale novel, and I really enjoyed the first book, Welcome to Night Vale. This is technically the third, so I read them out of order, but you can. Well, I wouldn't recommend reading It Devours before Welcome to Night Vale, you definitely need to read Welcome to Night Vale first, and then with It Devours or this one, it doesn't matter which one you read next, because this is totally in its own thing, but It Devours does play a little bit with some characters from Welcome to Night Vale, the first book. But this one, the reason that it disappointed me, it wasn't a bad book, it just didn't feel like a Night Vale book. It felt like a regular book that was more pirate fantasy than anything, because it's kind of the backstory of the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your house. It is narrated by Mara Wilson, so that's really nice. Or Mara Wilson, I forget how you are supposed to pronounce. You're only in present-day Night Vale for a little bit, and those excerpts I really enjoyed because it gave you that Night Vale vibe. The rest of it just felt like a regular historical fiction adventure, and I wasn't as invested in that story because I kept waiting for the Night Vale stuff to happen, and it doesn't. So if you want like a spoonful of Night Vale with a big historical adventure, then you'll like this book. It just disappointed me because of what I'd read in Welcome to Night Vale and how much I loved that book and how it lost the absurdism, surrealism that usual Night Vale stuff has, and this just didn't have it for me as much. I still liked it. I'm still kind of mad about the ending, but obviously it's gonna have to be that way in order to get to the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your house. But yeah, it's still fun and it's still enjoyable. It just wasn't quite the Night Vale novel I was expecting it would be. We really had a rough go at this month. It was a rough go of the month. So Bronze Beast was 4 stars. I did give it 4. This was 3. And then we have another 3 that's really kind of 2.5-ish now as I rethink it over. So we did not have a great start of the month. And actually we didn't have a great end of the month either. We had a great middle. Anyway, that is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. I didn't hate this book. It's about people who are normal in a superhero run world. And the one thing I really did enjoy about this is the chapter titles, because the chapter titles are telling the superhero story, and then the actual chapters are telling the story of our main characters who are not so fantastical, except one of them is kind of fantastical. It frustrated me a lot with how people treated the main character. The way that his friends treated him was a little bit too close to home in how I have been treated in the past, and I really, really hated that. And I never get satisfied with fights between friends or family and stuff. I never get what I want out of books, and it just makes me upset because like they'll have a bit of the blow up and then everything's fine, and I'm like, that's really not how this works. It's really, really not. A lot of times those tensions live for a while and things get brought up again. People hold grudges, and sometimes it's just too easy for people to overcome a disagreement or a fight in a lot of books that I've been reading lately. And I just, as someone who has experienced these things where you can fight with someone and then it doesn't get resolved so fast, it just leaves me unsatisfied that there is no gratifying moment where you both actually do understand each other. It's just kind of like this acceptance moment. It's not letting people really pour out their feelings, you know? And I just get unsatisfied by that. So that was the thing that kind of happened in this book. A lot of what happens in this book could have been solved by decent communication and trusting one another with, you know, each other's secrets or something. You're supposed to be this close-knit group of friends, and yet I don't see it at all. It did have really good mental health representation and stuff like that. I just got frustrated with this so much by how the characters treat each other. And I mean, the main character himself too is kind of a selfish dick, and I didn't really get him, but it was a rough go at the first of the month, I'll tell you that. Now we can talk about a book that I loved, thank God. A book that got 5 stars for me, and that is Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I'm so glad I finally got to this one. It's beautiful. I love this story a lot. It's got all that Naomi Novik goodness that I need. I like the writing style that she does. I love the characters in this. I love the complexity of it. I love the magic system of it. I love the big overarching evil being something way bigger than any of them could imagine, and it's good. It's just good. It's good for the soul. I love this one. Is it my new favorite? I don't know. Do I love Spinning Silver more than this? I don't know if I can't decide which Naomi Novik novel I like the most right now. But I think this might be it. This might be the winner right now. I think I have to give it to Uprooted. I have another one to read though. We're starting Temeraire this month. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think Uprooted may be my new favorite from her. And this brings Naomi Novik to auto-buy author status. And I love it. Next up is not a book I physically own nor can own because it is only available in ebook and audiobook format currently. But that is Sunreach by Brandon Sanderson and Jancy Patterson. Shoot. I was right, Jancy Patterson. These are novellas for Skyward, and Sunreach is FM's story, and I love FM, and I loved this novella. It is only 5.5 hours long. It's like 200 some odd pages. Apparently, there are 3 Skyward novellas that will later be bound together, and the 3rd novella, it hasn't released yet. It'll release at the end of the month. So you read Sunreach, and then Redawn, and then you can read Cytonic because it's 2.1, 2.2 Cytonic, and then 3.1 is Evershore, which is Jorgen's story. And Sunreach was FM's story, and it picks up right where we left off after Starsight. We are right back in it. This is why I find this a little bit off-putting, because novellas usually need to be able to stand on their own without interfering with the main story. And I really honestly think a work call. What was I saying? I forgot. Phones happen. So with Sunreach and with Redawn, which I will talk about later, I feel like their stories are so important to see what's going on between Starsight and Cytonic that I feel like you really have to read them. And so it doesn't lose stars, but it loses a little bit of points in the sense that you have to read these. You really, really have to, because I feel like once I get to Cytonic, there's going to be stuff happening that if I hadn't read those, would seem very out of place, especially in FM's story with a relationship that develops there. And I really love the relationship that develops there. And I love the Taeniks so much. So if you don't know who the Taeniks are the slugs. So if you know Doomslug, which is Doomslug, they are these adorable slugs that can kind of repeat words, and they have special powers. And a lot of what the novellas are surrounding are the Taeniks, because they're actually a very important plot point that I will not spoil for you guys. But I love them. They're just cute, and I really want one, and I'm thinking of learning, of figuring out how to make one. It's gonna have to do with leather work, because they're described as having very leathery, skin and stuff. But I really want to make a Taeniks. Or have somebody make me a Taeniks. Can someone make me a Taeniks? Okay, weird. I really, really love the story. It's cute, it's fast, and I think everybody should be reading it. There you go. Next up, I continued a trilogy, and that is A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which is the sequel to A Darker Shade of Magic, and I absolutely loved this book. I loved that it dealt mostly with a big competition. Like, there was high stakes in the first one. There was great, crazy battles and things, and this one was more about the characters overcoming the trauma from the first book while also getting into mischief and, things be happening. And damn that cliffhanger. Damn you, cliffhanger. Cliffhanger abound in this one. And I can't wait to get into A Conjuring of Light. But I love this so much. I love the characters so much. It's now introduced one of my new favorite characters, Alucard Emery, and I'm really happy to see more development with Prince Rai and everybody. I love this. I love this series. I didn't think I was going to, honestly. I thought I would just blah. I thought it would be like, oh, it's fine, and because of other people's opinions of it, but I actually really, really am into this. I love Delilah as a character. She's so, she's very chaotic in her nature. She's self-serving, but I do love the confidence that she has. Some people may say that she's not Mary Sue, but that she's a cookie cutter of what a strong, independent woman is. And I don't really see a problem with it because she is a strong, independent woman. who don't need no man. Has these moments of doubt and fragility that I think often get overlooked when writing strong independent women. And so I do think she is three-dimensional and well-rounded, and I really, really like her a lot. I just don't like her haircut. I'm sorry. If it's anything like this haircut on the beginning, I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. I hate the bob haircut, but that's a very superficial thing. All right, we did it. We got through the chunkiest of chunky books. I think this is the biggest book on my shelf, and that is The Wise Men's Fear, all 994 pages of it, or 43 hours of audiobook. You were so much. But I love this. I just realized, looking at the cover here, that Kvothe has his more outfit for the Adem, and I'm really, for the Adem, I'm sorry if that's how you actually pronounce it, but I like this a lot. It took a while to get through, but that's kind of the thing about these books, is that it's all storytelling. It's not necessarily, like, I still don't fully see arcs in this. It's just one long ongoing story that Patrick Rothfuss kind of is like, all right, I think 1,000 pages is enough. I think I should cut it off there, kind of thing. But we have lots of little stories in between it. And from the academy to the governor or mayor or whatever, I forget what he is. I think it's the mayor. That area, and the bandit stuff, and Tempe, and the Adem, and then the aftermath. I do love each section, even with Felurian, even though I'm very ace. It's fine. I still really am intrigued by Felurian and all of the Fae stuff, but I love Tempe the most. Tempe is my new favorite character, and I get to be part of the gang of people waiting for book 3. We're waiting and waiting and waiting for it. And I'm mad about that, because I don't even know how he could end it with book 3 and be a trilogy, because I feel like Kvothe's story, there's so much more to this. There's so much more. Like, we're not even anywhere near where Kvothe is in present day. So how are we gonna get there? I do think one criticism I have for this is that Kvothe leaves the academy and goes on a ship, and Patrick Rothfuss decides to skip over the shipwreck and almost murder and getting robbed, which are actually super important plot points by the end of the book. And he decided, I won't tell you about that. We're just going to skip ahead. And I was like, I felt a little cheated by that, because I do feel like that is an important character moment and plot moment. Like, also Simmons. I love Tempe and Simmons are probably my two favorite, and then Fella right under there. Oh, no. Davy, then Fella. Those are probably my list of faves so far. It was really, really fun. I enjoyed this a lot. I'm really glad that Fee made me read these books, because I don't know when I would have picked them up if she hadn't forced me to read them. So thanks, Fee. See you later in like a couple hours, because you're going to be here soon. Now we get to talk about another Welcome to Night Vale novel, and that is It Devours, again by Josephine and Jeffrey Craner. And I read this on audiobook as well, and it's still narrated by Cecil Baldwin. Cecil, I've heard it both ways. This is the second Welcome to Night Vale novel, and this one was way fun, and I really, really enjoyed this. It was a real Night Vale novel, so much that I can't really tell you what exactly it was all about, because it's surreal absurdism. And I just love the way that this world of Night Vale has been created. I really like this absurdity. I don't have any other word for it except for absurdity and surrealism, and I really, really enjoy that. Also, it's Pink Book. Look at that. Look at that fun stuff. Trying to figure out the mystery and following along with the main characters and stuff, and the differences. I do like how the book ended and showed us kind of a real relationship and how things work. I love just all the little aspects of things that seem absurd, but like, you know what? It's all kind of allegories for life and general, and it's just ridiculous. Wait, is there? Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't even know that there's like art and stuff inside, because I read these all as audiobooks. That's so fun. I should have read along. That was a pamphlet for the Smiling God. There's a lot more in here. So you can go either way with these ones, or you can do both. But It Devours, I think It Devours actually is my favorite of the 3 Night Vale novels that are out. I think this is probably my favorite. I didn't expect it to be, but it is. Then we have 2 more physical books and 1 more audiobook. And so we're getting into more of the disappointing stuff. I started out really enjoying this book, and then I kind of went a little downhill. And that is Dear Mr. Darcy by Amanda Grange. This is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice told through letters. So the entire novel is people writing to other people. And in the beginning of this, I really liked it because we go way before Netherfield Park. We go way before the beginning of Pride and Prejudice, where Netherfield Park is let us last. And we see some other characters. We see where the Bingleys come from, and I didn't realize the Bingleys, I don't know if it's canon or if it's something that Amanda Grange made up, but the Bingleys come from trade too. So what is up with Caroline Bingley being so snobby? Like what? Snobby about people in trade when you literally come from trade, whatever. But seeing where Darcy comes from, we see like the moments with his father's death. We get to see more of with Georgiana and Wickham in the beginning and stuff, and then we finally get into where we are with the beginning of it. So that part was really interesting. The downside of this is that a lot of this felt and was copy-pasted from the BBC 1995 production of Pride and Prejudice, like word for word dialogue that was put into letters. So I didn't like that so much. Like, I can watch the BBC version anytime I want. I wanted something more out of this. I wanted other insights into Pride and Prejudice, not copy-pasted dialogue. And a lot of the times she kept using the same phrases for certain characters. Like Bingley's letters are always like, somewhere in the letter you will find "upon my honor," and it's like he says that one time and this author decided to run with it. Like, she gave Lydia Bennet saying "oh, what a lark" all the time, and I'm like, they can have bigger vocabularies. And just the way that they were writing in the letters, I don't believe that was a natural way to explain situations, because she would like dictate exactly what someone had said and then I said, and it's like, people don't, when you retell things, people don't usually say word for word what the conversation was, and they usually summarize things or you know, hyperboles, or you know, they don't actually get, they usually write to their own bias. And this felt like she was just dictating what literally happened, and I just don't believe that as much. This is where this book really started disappointing me, is when we got into the Pride and Prejudice stuff. It was there. I also didn't feel like certain characters needed to be included in this. Like Mary Bennet, as much as I love Mary Bennet, we didn't need her insight. She offered nothing else to the book. And she literally didn't contribute. And then she has the plot with the Southertons, who used to own Netherfield Park, and they're just like brand new characters I'd never heard of. I don't know if they're a thing or anything, but there's so many Southerton daughters that are also doing correspondence, and I guess it was just a way to have the characters tell other people's stuff. But I didn't feel their plots and stuff necessary. It felt almost like this person didn't read Pride and Prejudice and just watched the BBC series and based their book off of the BBC series. Which, like, the BBC series, as good as it is, skips a lot of things. It tries to do well, and it does probably the best job with an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, but that is not what Pride and Prejudice is. In total, there's a lot of other things going on, and that's where this book let me down. And then another book that let me down was 9 by Zach Hines. If I had done my unhaul sooner, this would have been unhauled prior to this, because it does have a very low rating, and now I know why. This is a story about a world where everyone has 9 lives, and the government will give you subsidies and things for burning those lives, burning through lives. And you reawaken in this lake as your best form. So I did find in this story, there was quite a lot of fat shaminess, that especially in the beginning, because there is a character who is the fat kid who is forced to burn and then comes back all shiny and new, you know. And there's a lot of other mention, like even one of the characters is like in her new body and she's like, do you think I look fat? And I'm like, what the, why was that necessary? There's quite a few points about this where even the fat kid once again is eating an entire cake after having burned through his life and stuff, and he's going through things because there are things called wrinkles where when you come back something is wrong with you, and now his wrinkle is he can't taste anything. And like there's lots of different wrinkles that happen to people. Like one character loses the color green, or people start to go into this thing called retrograde where they start losing memories and their personalities and things once they get closer and closer to the ninth life. And like in concept, this was good, but I think it was really poorly executed. The world building lacked quite a bit because a lot of it just didn't make sense to me in the context. Society didn't make any sense because it's supposed to be just modern day, how it is. Like apparently it started in 1808 when the sun flare happened and did this. I think, is that what it said? In the summer of 1808. Oh, it's a parallel world to our own. And it was a sun flare. One, I want to know who discovered that everybody had 9 lives. I kind of wish it had been not a modern day story. It would have been a little bit more interesting if it was more historical fiction, I think. But it felt weak to me. The characters felt weak. I didn't care about them. Again, there's a friendship fight that never gets solved. And I just was mad about it. I didn't like all the motivations of the characters, and it disappointed me. It just was a big disappointment. Blah, 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 blah. The last book was audiobook that is not available as physical book yet, and that is Read On by Brandon Sanderson and Jancy Patterson. So this is the second novella in the Skyward series, and this is Alanique's story. So we meet Alanique in Starsight, which is how Starsight happens, is because she crash landed on detritus, and she and Spencer swap places, but she is unconscious and injured, and so she is on detritus. So now in Read On, it is her story. Well, in Sunreach, we also see her wake up and then she disappears, and now we go back to her home world of Read On and the situation with her people there, because her people used to fight along with the humans, and so the superiority doesn't like them and is kind of oppressing them in a very different way. I thought exploring the politics of this alien planet was very interesting because it is a bipartisan government, which reflected a bit on how we have our own here in America. It was a little bit there. I still enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed all the interactions with Skyward Flight and Alanique, and I see potential for certain characters to get closer and stuff. I think with Skyward Flight, it was easy, especially with Starsight being so heavily Spencer focused, and Skyward itself had a lot more characters in it that I kind of forgot what the characters of like Ned and Arturo are really like, and this one gave a little bit more insight into them, and especially Arturo, who I don't really remember much about him in the original series, but you definitely get to see more with this, and with his interactions with Alanique, and just having an alien perspective on things was very interesting in watching her react to human behaviors and human culture was very interesting, and I really thought that's where this book shined the most, was in Alanique and her attempting to work with the humans despite all the craziness going on, and cliffhanger abound. So I have to dive into Cytonic ASAP, and then I can't wait for Evershore. But now I'm worried that Evershore is going to have a horrible cliffhanger for Defiant when we finally get book 4, which is the final book, and I'm not ready. Those are the books that I read in November. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what books you read in November. Put them in the comments below, or on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. And I will see you guys tomorrow, cuties. Bye! I just like hit myself in the glasses, so. Bye! there. Oh God. We're fine. Everything's good. Oh God. It's fine. Everything's fine. We can start a video just like normal. Hi cuties and welcome to Litmas Day 5. That's not how I do this. I just realized there's a thing on my shirt.